This video will cover how to set up pick lists in FieldX Office for the PC.
So if I click on List up here on the top, I would select Pick List Manager. Now, the pick list determine what you have available to select in a journal entry. So in order for you to add a plant entry, you need to have a crop added to your pick list. And you control what those are. So you're not going to have to select from 100 different crops or 100 different varieties that you're not using. You only have the list items that you're using with the spelling, capitalization, and everything that you want to use. So you're not bogged down by other data or needing to type in information all the time and remember how to spell everything. We'll go through the crop variety and crop technology list here today. Those will be used to create planting entries and keep track of what was planted where from year to year. We'll talk briefly about the the insect, disease, and weed pick list. Those are used for scouting. And we'll talk about the chemical pick list and how that is used and some of the data that can be attributed to specific chemicals. The other pick lists that we won't talk about today but are important are the fertilizer pick lists, manures, field operations, which are essentially all of the other things that you do in the field, rolling the field, for example, or other specific, unique kind of tillage operations. And then harvest storage locations, which is used to record where the crop went after it was harvested from the field. All right, let's do crop variety and crop technology first. So I'll start with crop technology. Now, this pick list are the technologies that will eventually be tied to a variety. So as an example, I have BT and Roundup Ready added here. And these are going to be tied to specific varieties that are in my variety pick list. We'll come back to how to actually make that connection. But for now, just know that we need to add in any new items that you need to use. So if I click on Enter a New Item here, let's say I need to have Roundup Ready 2 as a crop technology. I don't have that in here today, so I'll go ahead and add RR2 to indicate Roundup Ready 2. I'll click Add, and then that's now going to be available in my crop technology list. I'll hit Save, and now when I go and work with varieties, I'll be able to select Roundup Ready 2. Next, I'll move to the crops. Make sure I have the crops I'm going to use this year. In crops and many of the other pick lists, there is a master reference library to select from. If that's the case, we do recommend you use that because there's standardized spelling. It's going to help keep your data set clean. If I click right here in the search area, I can type in the crop that I'm looking for. So let's say I need to have wheat. Search for that. And then there's a variety of different wheats, wheatgrass that you can select from. I want to have spring and wheat spring. I'll click this button, this arrow, to move it over into my crop list. And then I can save that. To go back to that full master reference library, I can just hit clear, and that's going to show all of the crops again. I'll click on alfalfa as another crop that I want to add, move that over. Now that's in my company list library. I can hit save, and then move on to start adding varieties for these crops. So click on the Pick List Manager drop-down menu up here, go down to Variety. Now, I don't have any varieties in my database yet, and there isn't a master reference library, so you would start over here on the right side in the company Pick List library, which is what everyone in your company is working off of. I'll click Enter a New Item, and go ahead and type in a variety name. So I'll just add a generic kind of corn variety 1. and then I'll select the crop that's tied to. So I'll select corn. I'll hit add. Now that's going to be available to select anytime I have corn selected as my crop. I can click enter a new item again. Let's add corn variety 2. I'll select the crop, and again, that's corn. Okay, so you'll go through and add those varieties one by one here, and then tie them to the appropriate crops. So if I have a cotton variety, I'll add that in here, cotton, add. Okay, so all of that is available in my journal entry for using in journal entries now. Next, I would edit the company-wide pick list values. So for varieties and some other pick list items, it's important to go over to this edit company-wide pick list values, because this is where you can tie specific data to that list item. So here you can add in the company name, cost information for the variety. And then over here on the right side, this is where you'd also tie which crop technologies are related to each variety. So this corn variety 1, BT and Roundup Ready. Let's say this corn variety 2 has BT and Roundup Ready 2. So now when I use these varieties, it's going to include that crop technology along with the variety automatically. I won't need to do anything actually in that journal entry to bring those crop technologies with. Just set this up one time ahead of the season. Okay, I'll save that, save the data, and then I can go on and move on to my next list. So next we'll cover the scouting type pick list, insect diseases, weeds. They work similar to each other. I'll skip down to weeds. Now I do have a few pick list items here added already. And you'd always want to start in any pick list in the add items to the company-wide pick list. Okay. On the left side, you have your master reference library. So you can search through that just like before. Okay, I already have quackgrass, so of course I shouldn't have searched for that one. But it does narrow down the list, so you can see only the weeds with that keyword, whatever you typed in that search box. Those are the ones that are going to be available. So let me search for a different one, since I already have quackgrass in my list here. And there are hundreds of weeds, insect diseases to pick from here. So you're likely to find the ones that you're going to work with. But if not, you can enter new items manually as well. So let's add velvet leaf in. I'll click this button to add it to my company pick list. And you do have the option to select a preferred common name and a preferred scientific name, depending on the area of the country you're in, or if you're in Canada, sometimes that changes. So just select the one that you want to use, press OK, and then that'll be moved over into your company list so you can select it when saving a scouting entry. All right? Of course, like I said, you can enter a new item manually here. If you need to. Most likely, you'll be able to find the ones that you need in the master reference library, but in some cases you do have something unique that you find or something different in your area that isn't typical. You can always add those in manually. They're not locked to our list. All right. So then let's talk about chemicals. Chemicals are a very important pick list because they're what ties, to the recommendations, your actual treatment records that you're looking to query at the end of the year, everything like that. That all is going to be based on what chemicals you have added in here. On the left side, we have a master reference library for you to select from. Definitely recommend you use that here. There are some advantages to using this master reference library with chemicals, and that is you're able to bring in the manufacturer name and the EPA number automatically, so the U.S. registration number automatically. You can search for this. So I'll search for, let's say, Cobra. I'm going to narrow down this list so that only the one or group of chemicals that you're looking for are going to be there. Okay, so I'll select that in my master reference library, move it over into my company pick list library, and then from here, you're adding in which category this is. So you can add it as an adjuvant, defoliant, desiccant, fungicide, growth regulator, herbicide, inoculant, insecticide, or nematicide. So I'll select this as a herbicide. I'll click Add, and then Save. All right, so now I've got a few herbicides here. You can add a new item here completely. So maybe there's an adjuvant that you're using that you want to add in. So I'll add in crop oil here for an example. So just type that in and then select the category. Call that an adjuvant. Press Add. Okay, and now that's going to be available in my list. I'll save this. And then next, I want to jump over to the Edit Company-Wide Pick List Values. And there's a few data fields in this that you'll want to pay attention to. So like I mentioned, any chemical that came in via my master reference library, that is going to be tied. You have that product name spelled correctly as it is on the label. Bring in the company name, so the manufacturer, and the U.S. registration number. Now, for the Canadian customers on the call, you can edit this EPA number to be the Canadian registration number. We are working on bringing in the Canadian registration number automatically, but aren't to that point just yet. That'll be coming in a later release. All right. So as I scroll over to the right, there are other data fields here that I may want to add in information. So exempt from pesticide use reports. I don't need to include this in pesticide use reports as far as regulatory perspective in your area. There's a min default max rate. If you click on this, you're able to set the default units that you're going to use in the program, and then also put in the default rate. So if my default is, let's say, 1 pint per acre, I can add that in, and I can also set in what the minimum and what the maximum would be for that specific chemical. So what will happen is if I go below that minimum or above that maximum, FieldX will warn me that, hey, you said that we're not supposed to go beyond 1.5, but you entered in 15. You know, it'll make sure that you have a chance to double check your work and not mistakenly put 15 pints when you meant to put 1.5. Okay, so I'll press OK here. All right, so that's going to be added in as part of my data. Next is the product container units and costs. What you can do here, there's two things. One is the product container unit. Now, what is done here is you set the default units that are going to be, this chemical will be purchased in. So if this chemical is purchased in gallons, you can set the product container units to be gallons. And then down here on my product cost, you can put in what the cost per gallon is. So I can set that as $2 per gallon. Now, even if you don't know the cost or don't keep up with the cost, it is still helpful to have this product container unit filled in, because anytime that chemical rates are totaled up, so you want to see the total recommended across 5 fields. Well, that's going to be in terms of whatever this product container unit is set as. So it'll always show the total amount needed in gallons. Okay. Over here toward the right, you have other data fields. So the rain-free period, re-entry interval, pre-harvest days, and concentration. So all of that can be filled in. And then all the way over here on the right, there are additional categories, and actually they're the same categories we used when we started out adding the pick list item. So let's say that we forgot to add a category for this 2,4-D. You would be able to go over here and check mark that this is a herbicide. Okay. All right. So I'll save this. So now this 2,4-D has all this data in. It has a min default max rate, product container units and cost. I'll go ahead and add in some sample data for the rain-free period, re-entry, and pre-harvest days. Okay, save that. And then from there, you can continue to add additional items or move on to the next pick list item. All right, so that